Hello, Kirsten Chick here, connectwithnutrition.co.uk. Thank you for joining Toral and I earlier at the Your Life and Cancer Conference. This conference is still going on. It's on all this weekend, and it's also the weekend of the 10th of October is the second part. So Toral and I talked about nutrition for people living with cancer, and there were lots of questions that came up. It's always a really popular topic, and there were lots of questions in the chat box. We addressed as many as we could in the time that we had, but there were so many that we both wanted to answer them all if we could. So I've got them here. I'm going to go through as many as I can now that we didn't answer during the talk. And if you didn't manage to make the talk with Toral and I earlier, you can, the whole weekend is recorded. So if you sign up and register for live plus recordings, then you'll be able to watch that again. So I'm just going to do this in order that the questions came through. The first one was, can you expand on nutrigenomic testing? How is it accessed and what does it involve? And as Toral explained earlier, it's best if you get referred for tests. You can get tests done yourself, but both Toral and I can refer you for nutrigenomic testing. And then what I can do, what Toral can also do, is interpret those results for you and within the context of what we already know about you. So I'll already have taken your case history in a really detailed fashion, and there may also be other tests that you've done, and then I can put your nutrigenomic test results in the context of all of this, and then make sure I put together a program for you, a nutritional program that works taking all of this into account so that I know that you're getting the nutrients that you need, not just from your diet but also from supplementation as well. So the next question is, what are your views on gluten and other grains? Do they cause inflammation in every person or just certain people? And I think Toral answered this a little bit in that it depends. So often the answer to nutritional questions is depends. I mean, it will possibly create inflammation to a certain degree in all of us in varying degrees, because we're all at different stages of evolving to be able to process gluten. So some people can digest gluten without being aware of any problems at all, whereas for other people it's noticeably disastrous, and there are lots of shades in between. So it really varies from person to person. The next one that I'm seeing that we didn't answer is, can either of you comment on the benefits of spirulina in the diet, and what you might know in terms of fungi, for example, turkey tail, lion's mane, and so on. Now, we did touch on medicinal mushrooms, and there's a whole session on this at the weekend. So I'm going to focus a little bit more on spirulina. Actually, I could talk for hours about spirulina. It's a blue-green algae. It's rich in so many nutrients, and one that we touched on in our presentation earlier was magnesium, and how difficult it is to get enough magnesium in the diet. But any of these green powders like spirulina, barleygrass, wheatgrass powders, they all provide really nice levels of magnesium and so many other nutrients, B vitamins, other minerals. It's also a good source of protein, and this links into another question that somebody's asked: which healthy foods would you recommend to significantly build up low weight patients? Now, most people expect me as a nutritional therapist to be dealing with people and weight loss a lot of the time. Actually, because I work with so many people with cancer, I seem to be working a lot more with weight gain than with weight loss, and not just people with cancer either. So it's spirulina really factors in there. There have been a couple of really small but nice studies showing how spirulina, possibly because of the protein or the combination of protein and other nutrients, can really help to build people up. And the studies have been done on off the top of my head, I seem to remember it was malnourished children was one of them, and HIV patients was another one. And there was, I think with the malnourished children, they looked at adding sardines, and that helped with weight gain, but adding the spirulina in helped significantly more. So I always make sure there's some form of spirulina in what I'm recommending for somebody with weight gain. I have a kind of weight gain smoothie. It doesn't work for everybody, not everyone likes smoothies, but if people like smoothies, then I'll recommend something that's got maybe a little bit of avocado in, some protein powder as well. And this might be whey protein powder if there's no dairy intolerance. A whey isolate will, or if somebody's not vegan, a whey isolate will generally work anyway, because that's been shown to help too. And some form of really good quality super green powder that contains spirulina. Now, spirulina is one of those green powders that tastes like pond water because that's pretty much where it's grown. But the better the quality, the milder it tastes. And if you still can't handle it, then you can put in some cinnamon or ginger, really helps with that flavour. You need a strong flavour to match it. So that might be the base of a smoothie I might recommend, and then anything else would depend on the individual, but I try and keep my smoothie recipes quite simple. Okay, so can you please help with the controversial argument about fructose and cancer? Well, I'll be talking about this more in my Wigwam forum that I'm doing for Yes to Life. If you don't know about the Wigwam forums, then head over to, I think they've got their own website, but also it'll be signposted on the Yes to Life website. So I'm doing a Wigwam forum on sugar. So I'll talk about this more then. But essentially fructose is processed differently by the body. So that makes it, the way that it's digested and what happens next means that it may be more likely to contribute to inflammation in the body. And as with other sugars, as we were talking about in the presentation, the more you can help slow down how it enters the bloodstream, the better. So we talked about fibre, so eating the whole fruit, not having fruit juice, because that takes the fibre out. I also mentioned how polyphenols have been shown in 1 or 2 studies to help with that too. And things like dark berries are so rich in polyphenols, so they're a really great fruit to focus on. And the polyphenols will help, they're low fructose anyway, but polyphenols will help our bodies process what fructose is there. Now, a huge topic is fat. There are a couple of 2 or 3 questions about fats and oils. So I'd like to address those. It's a big topic. It's one that I've always been passionate about, done most of my huge amounts of research on fats and oils. First thing I will say, so the first question is it possible to say more about fats? Some cancers like prostate are said to be driven by fats. So the first thing I'd like to say is there's no such thing as good fats and bad fats. We like things to be simple and in boxes, but it's not the case usually. But what we do need to do is make sure our fats and oils are in balance. So people with mostly sedentary lifestyles do not need huge amounts of saturated fats in their diet, unless perhaps they're following a ketogenic diet, which is a slightly different thing. But on the whole, we do not need huge amounts of saturated fats. So, but we do need some. So having some saturated fat in our diet is essential, and how much we need really depends on what else we have in our diet, how active we are, how our bodies work, and so on. So there's no golden formula for that, unfortunately. But a lot of the tests, the studies that have been done that show adverse responses to saturated fat seem to be with really high levels. It's the excessive levels of saturated fat that I'm more concerned about. So it's about getting the balance right. Also in terms of omega-3 and 6 rich oils, they need to be in balance too. And also an awareness as I touched on in the presentation, that if you heat these or over process these kinds of oils, the omega-6 and 3 rich ones, then you're going to end up with pro-inflammatory substances and carcinogenic substances as well if you're heating them. So so yes, it's about the quality of the fats and getting the balance right for you as an individual. Now, the next question was, what are your thoughts on foods containing fats such as rapeseed oil and sunflower oil? Are they pro-inflammatory? Well, both of those oils are particularly rich in omega-6. So it really depends on how they've been processed. If they've been cold pressed and all the way through the processing, they've been protected from heat and light. And then they are used in a way that does that as an ingredient as well, then great, as long as, again, you've got the right kind of balance in your diet compared to things like omega-3s and so on, and what your body needs right now. So yes, food containing those fats, is that food that you've made yourself, or is that a processed food that you've bought? If you've made it yourself, you absolutely know how you've processed those oils. But if it's something that you've bought, you may need to investigate, ask questions, or sadly often assume that they have been over processed. Next. Oh, and I'm going to jump down. Can you clarify whether coconut oil raises HDL cholesterol or not? I've read so many contradictory reports. Okay, so cholesterol, here's another biggie. I do talk a lot about this in my book, Nutrition Brought to Life. So if you want to know more about that, and that's fully referenced as well. So, but what I'll say now is, again, it depends. It depends on how much coconut oil is in your diet, how much you're using up, and what else is going on in your body and in your diet as well. So just to point out, HDL cholesterol and LDL cholesterol, it's actually all the same cholesterol. It depends what direction they're going in. So HDL cholesterol is taking cholesterol to cells, which may then, for example, go into creating a stiffer cell membrane. Now, in most cases, your body has deliberately decided to do this. It's a deliberate decision to make more cholesterol because your body's continually regulating cholesterol. It can actually make cholesterol from anything. And just because you've got excessive amounts of perhaps of coconut oil in your diet, it doesn't mean it's going to make cholesterol from it. So if you are using that excess cholesterol and excess coconut oil, to make more HDL cholesterol, then I would want to be asking why. There's got to be some underlying rationale for that. Maybe there's some lack of integrity somewhere in some tissue, perhaps caused by inflammation or something else, and your body's seeking to kind of strengthen that a little bit, or there may be other reasons going on. So that's part of the kind of investigative process of trying to figure that out, which, you know, again, it may be a case of reducing the coconut oil or trying something else, another approach to food. So jumping back up, where are we? I have your superfood supplements, which are excellent but contain maca. This person had breast cancer surgery in January, and it was strongly estrogen receptor and progesterone receptor positive. Should they be taking maca? Well, I can't comment on an individual case, but I will say in general, I will exercise caution around maca because at info@connectwithnutrition.co.uk, my website is also connectwithnutrition.co.uk, as is most of my social media. So come and find me and enjoy the rest of the weekend. Hopefully see you soon.